What's good, friends? Ebony Chappelle checking in with something fabulous for your podcast listening and viewing pleasure. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of What's Good with Ebony Chappelle. All right, friends, thank you so much for tuning in to the podcast. Those of you that have been listening consistently, thank you so much for supporting the show. Opal is doing a lot right now. So that was her tail that just run across the screen if you're watching me on YouTube. If you were listening, you're probably going to hear her at some point throughout the show. My little baby is just so clingy right now, but I love her. So it's all good. She makes me happy. So I guess it's just part of it. But again, those of you that have been supporting the show, thank you so much. Be sure to like and subscribe, rate and review, share the show with a friend. And yeah, just let me know how you're feeling about the conversations that we're having. Today, I am so excited to be talking with one of my absolute favorite people on Twitter, and that is none other than Tone Classic. So, if you guys don't know Tone, you will get to know him in this episode, and you will get to know about the things that just inspire his amazing fashion, the content that he puts out. We talk about a lot in this episode. We get into what it truly means to be free and to live in your truth. That's so cliche. People always say that, living your truth, but I mean that's the best way that I can describe what we talked about. So we also discuss all things Pride and Juneteenth and how it's become like so commercialized lately. We really get into it. So without further ado, let's jump into my conversation with Tone. How did you enjoy? I'm gonna ask you more about this later, but how did you enjoy your Pride weekend?
I enjoyed my prior weekend so much. I contemplated on whether or not I was going to go.
Okay.
But I'm so glad that I went because it really does feel like, and it shouldn't be a once a year kind of thing, but I was just talking to a friend of mine who is, she's straight cisgender female,
Mm-hmm.
about how liberating it is, comparing it to how she must feel when, she's with all her girlfriends and she goes into the club and they're all looking good. And it's like, I was like, it's like that, but for us in the daytime, like,
Yeah.
and I imagine if we lived in like a larger, more diverse city, it might be like that all the time. But for where we are, it
Mm-hmm.
always is just fun, to feel like you're in a space that's not only a space where you're not only normal, but like celebrated for everything that you are. So I had a good time.
I'm so glad to hear that. So I'm definitely going to ask you a little bit more about that later, but I like to start off the interviews by asking people what's good with them, what's bringing a smile to their face and, just making their life a little more joyful right now. So what is that for you?
Yeah. What's good with me? So I think what's good with me is being asked to do this. Um, really put a smile on my face, and it kind of set a trend because someone else asked me to do something. Like,
Mm.
yeah, which is, and I don't get asked to do things very often, so um, I was very happy because you, along with the other individual, are people that I know and have known for some time now. So um, I was just talking to someone else, I think last week, and they were saying that collaboration is really important. They were talking about the importance of collaboration
Mhm.
and how all the social media apps are changing around the algorithms and who sees what, and how collaboration is the key to getting new audiences to see your content. So
Mhm.
happy to be collaborating with you. And another thing that has been just putting a smile on my face is I have recently taken up sewing,
Oh
and
my gosh.
um, it's been just like a personal thing for the past couple months. But now I've gotten to the point where I'm like kind of creating stuff and wearing stuff and modifying stuff, and it's really liberating to be able to like wear something that you made or something that you
Mhm.
put together. And it really started off because I would go and get things altered, and just like everything else, all the services, my alterations lady jacked up her prices.
Oh
And
Lord.
yeah, I said to myself, I said I gotta figure out how to do this, and that's where it started.
Hmm.
So those are things that have been putting a smile on my face. What's good with you?
Yeah. So first of all, what's good with me is just being excited to be here talking with you. So you said you were happy that I asked. I was happy that you said yes, because I never take it for granted that people will say yes or no to things. Like I get no's. So when I do get a yes for someone, especially at this juncture of where I'm at with this, it feels really good because I'm like, okay, cool. Then this is, it's expansive, it's going somewhere. So that's what's good for me. And I think that your friend is so right about the collaboration. And I hope that this builds a bigger trend for you of more people asking you to do things because you're fucking amazing. So I hope that this sparks way more, with people asking you to do things. So yeah, the sewing I think is really cool. Also, my grandma taught me how to sew when I was a little girl.
Oh wow, I love it.
Yeah.
Lost art.
Yeah. You said what now?
It's a lost art.
It is a lost art, and I am not by any means. I'm not like the bomb at it, but knowing basic stitches is a lifesaver because if it's something that I can fix at home and not go to the alteration shop, I'm just like, I can do this really fast. Like this is an easy one,
That
and being able to create things that you wear is so cool too. I remember when I was growing up, I always got in trouble for cutting my clothes up and for painting on them and different stuff like that. But it was just a way that I wanted to express myself, especially the environment that I was in. I didn't have access to a lot of resources. So I was like, okay, how can I flip this thing into something that is closer to what I would really want, but don't necessarily have access to? And it went into college too, because we would go out places and it's like, okay, ain't nobody got money for a new outfit. Like, how am I just gonna like zhuzh up to
no,
the best of my ability, what I have access to. So I love that that is an outlet for you, especially because your fashion sense. I just have so many things I want to ask you. So let's start with what you wore to Pride. So at the time we're recording this, it is a couple days post Indie Pride. And
yeah,
I'll describe to them what you had on from the picture that I saw, the video that I saw on Twitter. Okay. So you had on a fringe halter top, and then you had fringe cuffs on the wrists, white jeans, and a gold chain belt around it. And you also had this very fierce blonde afro and shades to complement the look.
thank you.
So I want to know, where did the inspiration for that come from? And yeah, where did the inspiration for that come from first? We'll start there.
Yeah, so it's funny because people were commenting on the post saying, "Oh, I love, the Beyonce inspiration and all this." All people were pulling from all these different places, and I didn't take inspiration from any of those when I was putting the look together. It more
Mhm.
so kind of just came out of nowhere. Like a couple months ago, a friend of mine had a blonde afro wig, and I was hanging out with him, and I tried it on, and I was like, "Oh," I was like, "I kind of like how this looks. This looks kind of good on me." So
Mm.
throw the idea away in my head, and I had that fringe top with the cuffs was formerly a blouse. It was a women's blouse that I got from like Salvation Army or somewhere. I don't even know.
Mhm.
And I kept looking at it in the store, thinking like, this is really ugly. Like this is a really ugly shirt, but I like this. I like something about it. Like, and it was like
Mhm.
$5, and I was like, I'm just gonna buy it. I'm gonna buy it, and maybe I'll do something with it. And
Mm.
so I bought it, brought it home, and kept looking at it. And I was like, I'm gonna take this apart and use the fringe on it to make something else. Um, and so that's exactly what I did. I took it apart.
Wow.
At first, the fringe was just, it was gonna strap around my shoulders like my entire upper body. And then I was
Mhm.
like, oh, like it needs something else. So then I took pieces of it off and sewed them into cuffs and put more elastic in the actual halter top part to make it tight so it wouldn't move. And the jeans are a pair of white flare jeans. I love flare jeans. If I could just wear flare pants 24/7, I would. I had those already, but they were a little big, so I took them in the waist. Went and got that Afro wig from King's Beauty, you know where it's at.
Oh yes.
And picked it out a little bit. A belt. A friend gave me that belt a little while ago. But 9 times out of 10, most things that I do wear are thrifted or secondhand.
Mm-hmm.
It's really just, it's something I enjoy doing. Like I enjoy the search, and I have friends that, you know, they say, "Oh, you always find the nicest stuff. Take me with you." Like I want to find something, and I bring them with me, and they are like, "I don't have time to look. I don't want to look through this whole store in hopes to find like a shirt." And I totally get that. Like some people want the convenience of being able to go in the store, buy it, order online, whatever the case may be. And there are
Mm-hmm.
some things that I do like to buy in those instances, but I enjoy like that searching and looking and, you know, picking apart and taking things apart. Like I enjoy that
Mm-hmm.
just as much as I enjoy wearing the actual outfit. So I think the inspo kind of came from the shirt itself originally, and I built the rest of the outfit around that. And it also
Mm-hmm.
came from a song. A lot of the outfits, a lot of stuff I wear, I am inspired by music. And
Mm-hmm.
there's a song called Chic by Cheer. You know that song? It's an old school song.
Chic, and the name of the group is Cheer.
Yes.
No, I don't know that one. I know the group Chic, but that's a totally different thing. We're not talking about them.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to look this up.
Look it up. It's a very like it's just a very like old school, like funky song. Like when you hear it, you would think
Yeah.
about bell bottoms and afros. So um that's kind of that's what we did. That's where it came together.
I I just love it. And I knew that the references were going to be on point because they have to be, just being able to think outside of the box, like to see something and say, okay, I'm gonna do this eventually with it, and it does take that patience. Like I love thrifting, and most of the people in my family, in my immediate friend group, are like, I don't know how you do it because of the energy that it takes to go. And then sometimes you go and you don't find anything, which for me, those are the most sad moments. Like I'm so sad because I'm like, I can't make nothing happen in here.
Yeah.
Like I'm annoyed. So yeah, no, it really takes that effort.
Yes, ma'am. I know exactly what you mean. I've had those days where you go and those are really bad days, but
Hmm.
they're few and far in between. So I definitely know what you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah. So overall, when you think about just the things that inspire you in fashion, like as a whole, well, before I get into that one, how did you dress as a kid? Like, did you learn dressing from your parents, or was it something you grew into? Like, how did we get to where we at today?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. So um, I did not dress like I anywhere close to how I dress now as a kid, but I did, you know, I did try my best to spice things up and do things. I did learn a lot of my fashion influence does come from my parents. You know,
Mhm.
you actually know my mom. Um,
Yes, I do. I
and
do, which threw me for a loop when I realized that that was your mama. I was like, wow, it's such a small world. Because I saw you on Twitter and I was like, damn, who is this? Follow. And then later on, I put the two and two together. I was like, this is crazy.
right, yes, that's my mom. And you know,
Miss
a lot.
Tammy.
Yes, that is a lot of my fashion influence comes from my parents. I remember as a kid growing up, we would go to church as a family on Sundays. And so, you know, I came from the time when, you know, Sunday best. Now it's more like come
Yes.
as you are, you know what I'm saying? But
Casual every
yeah,
Sunday.
I grew up like, no, you're dressed, your shoes are shined, that tie is on. And then as we got a little bit older, you know, there wasn't an expectation to necessarily wear a tie every Sunday, but the expectation was to still be dressed and look good. So even if it was casual, like you're dressed, your clothes are pressed, steamed, ironed, you know, everything looks great. And it kind of became like a way for me to test my I guess, style skills as each Sunday came. Like, okay, what am I going to wear to church today?
Mm.
And it was like moments like those that I think kind of molded and shaped my fashion and how I'm able to take so little and put it together and make it look like a lot. Because growing up, you know, I didn't grow up wealthy or affluent. I wouldn't consider myself wealthy or affluent now. I am in spirit, but in terms of like, monetary,
Yes, that's where it starts.
yeah, that's where it starts. So, you know, I grew up like having limited things and taking this and putting it with that. And you know what I'm saying? I think that's when true fashion and style is really tested, when you can take very little, be it actual physical items or money, and make it
Mhm.
look grandiose and like it's $1 million presentation. And so, um, I looked at a lot of magazines. My dad would like get Esquire and GQ magazines. They were always come
I
to,
love Esquire.
yeah. My
Love
mom
it. Yeah.
would get like Jet and Ebony. They
Mhm.
would come to the house. I'm reading all these. I'm flipping through all these pages. I don't know if you remember the Ebony fashion show. Ebony, do you remember
Oh
that?
yeah, Ebony Fashion Fair.
Yeah,
Yes.
Ebony Fashion Fair. I remember going to that as a
Mhm.
kid. Um, all of the pop culture influences I grew up with, like I still love Janet Jackson, Brandy,
Mhm.
all of those shows, the Parkers, Moesha, like how they dressed in those shows, like music, all of those things work together in this pot to kind of influence my personal style. And there's a chunk of time where I was figuring it out and it looked a hot mess, Uh,
Well, so when you say a hot mess, are there any specific things that come to mind? I hate to have you relive like such painful moments, but
yes.
I'm just curious about what you would consider like, okay, no, that was a fail.
I remember being in college, and if and looking back at some of the things that I would wear in college now, I could just like, oh my gosh, off myself. It was, but at the time, I think the community around me was so receptive of it because it was different. And
Okay.
in some ways, sometimes people just recognize different as better, like, or
Mhm.
as commendable. Like, you're doing something different, and I respect you for it.
Yep.
However, I can look back at that now and say, okay, it was different. It was different, but it was not quite stylish. One of the things I'm thinking about is, I remember. Do you remember, like, for a time when I think Beyonce was the one who started it, but she would wear like, the short denim cutoff shorts and the
Mhm.
oversized button-up shirt and pull. She would tuck the shirt in the shorts and have the bottom of the shirt hanging out the
Yeah, I'm visualizing that now. That was a thing with a pair of like maybe an open toe strappy something.
like
Yep.
stuff like that. I remember like I used to wear like just everything all at once, patterns, like mixing camo with stripes and all these different things. I used to love wearing
Wow.
denim, like denim jacket, shirt, jeans. Like, I just went through a phase where I was just wearing denim everywhere all the time. And I think there's still a way to do it where it could look cute, but
There's a way.
back then it was not it. But all those things were kind of working in conjunction too. I even have moments now. I even have moments now where I look back at some a couple months ago and I'm like,
Yeah.
that was
What
not
the fuck was
it.
that? Yeah.
But it happened.
It does happen, but I love your point about all of that culminating into, where you are now and even where you will be in the future. I think that's so important for us to give ourselves the opportunity to explore and be experimental, especially as Black people, because so much in the world that we experience is completely out of our control. So much of what we have to do to survive is very like stifling,
Mhm.
and there are different degrees of that because depending on where you hit on the spectrum of Black, like you're dealing with a whole lot worse when it comes to like being stifled and being just like shut down by society. So giving yourself the space to try out whatever it is you want to try out in fashion, like I can only imagine. So I guess I'll just ask you, like, what do you think that relates to in terms of like your personhood and just how you see yourself in life in general, being able to experiment like that?
Yeah, so it definitely didn't happen overnight. I mean, I can be
Hmm.
kind of honest with you. I come from a conservative background, and I've definitely dealt with my fair share of growing pains as it pertains to coming out and
Hmm.
expressing myself. I still deal with it, from certain people, but in my adult life, I'm able to kind of compartmentalize things and put them aside. Like, I'm living my life focused on that.
Yeah.
And if you want to be a part of it and help celebrate it, then so be it. If not, then move out the way, no matter who you are.
Mm.
And even aside from that, like externally, people, strangers being matriculating through school. I grew up going to private Catholic schools. So I was not in a public school atmosphere until college. So
Wow.
from grades like first grade, I mean, even preschool, kindergarten, all the way up until I was 18, a senior in high school, I wore uniforms every single day. Um,
Mm.
yeah, we said prayer every single day. We're going to church. Like, it was that kind of vibe. So, um, when I got to college, I think even a lot of those crazy outfits were a product of, just trying everything out at once. Like, I need to get it out. It's been repressed all this
Mhm.
time. And of course I would, add a little scarf to my uniform and, do little things. And people are
Try a little bit of rebellion, just a
yeah,
little.
like
Yeah.
people that I grew up with will definitely affirm that. But when I turned 18 and went to school was when it was like, okay, now it's time to be me for real. And one of the biggest ways that I can be me is through my personal style and the way that I dress. It speaks to, I think, my confidence. And I think it also speaks to my fearlessness. And that's not to say that I
Mm.
get scared or feel insecure at times, because even just, I think it was the last week or the weekend before, I had attended an event and put on an outfit that I felt so confident in when I left the house. And when I got to the event and saw how everyone else was dressed, I instantly felt insecure.
Oh.
I felt, oh my gosh, I shouldn't wear this. And I went to my car and I put a shirt on, like this long cloak, kind of like what I have on now, this long cloak thing. And I went back inside. And when I went back inside the venue, a few people started coming out from the back, like wearing all kind of like wild, funky stuff. And it just reaffirmed to me, like, you need to take up space. Like, you don't ever
Mm.
yourself. And at my age, I know people will look at what I post, but we all have those moments. And I went back to the car and put back on what I had on and came back in and was so well received by everyone that was in there. But the point is that even if I wasn't well received, I'm not dressing for them. And I
Mhm.
one else should either, for that matter. I definitely have moments where I'm out and people don't receive my style as well, and they might be looking at me like, what does he have on? And that is what it is. But one thing I do know is that I'm always going to represent myself well. Everything I do is done in good taste. um,
Mhm.
and it's just a part of life. I feel like I could very well look back 20 years from now at some outfits I wear now and be like, "Ow," but I would have never known if I didn't try it and didn't decide to wear it. You know what I'm saying? And
Yep.
that does come with boundaries. But for the most part, I definitely think it speaks to just my confidence, my desire to live life and, enjoy myself, express myself through dress. It is like my art form. And, someone I really do love is RuPaul. And he has this video
Oh, yes.
where he's on like a 90s talk show. It could have been the Arsenio Hall show. I'm not sure. But
Mhm.
he says something on the lines of, I came to Earth to play with all the colors in the rainbow. Like, I came to play with all the colors in the crayon box. I didn't come to just use yellow and just use orange. Like, I want to use them all.
Mhm.
I always think about that because that's how I feel when I'm getting dressed. And, you see me in several different spaces, and my style adapts to the space that I'm in. So, in my professional life, it adapts. And I
Mhm.
have my, the way that I dress that is still stylish and intentional. And then I have, if I'm out in the street and doing my thing, my style adapts to that too. So I also never make an attempt to be one-dimensional in my personal style, because I'm not a one-dimensional person, and my life isn't one-dimensional either, for that matter.
Yeah. Wow. I'm just literally I'm blown away just listening to you. I first of all, I'm so proud of the fact that you had that experience with going to the car and feeling like, okay, maybe I need to like tone me down or whatever, and then deciding later on, okay, no, that's not the move. Because you're right. We all have been there. If we're being really honest with ourselves, we have for different reasons. There's, sometimes you step in a room and somebody gives a certain look, or they're just like the energy is off, and you're like, did I do something wrong? Am I not good enough? Like whatever, happens. And that's just something that we all have to contend with, the best way we can. So first of all, I appreciate your transparency and sharing that. And I love that you got something really profound out of that experience.
Man.
Yeah, because we have to keep reminding ourselves of that point. And RuPaul, absolute legend, period, point blank. There's a lot that people can say about some things that are maybe not so kosher that didn't happen, but this is not what that's about.
Right.
This is about the inspiration and the,
Yes,
the
I have.
legendariness of it all. But yeah, I think that's a point well taken too, because we come here with so many opportunities to be expressive and to have fun, so it's like it would be a shame to get to the end of the ride and you ain't did shit because
Okay.
you was too scared about what people had to say.
Exactly. Not me. Not I.
Mm-mm. No, not I either. So we both on the same
Okay.
page about that one. Uh, so we talked about Pride a little bit earlier, in terms of like your fashion and everything and showing up and what your experience was. But I want to have you talk more about what your experience has been in these spaces, and especially like I just think Pride is such a challenging conversation in general, especially for Black people, because it's just a lot. It's a lot. So I just want to get your take on just the month in general, making space for different types of people to be involved. Like what is that like for you?
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked this. It's a very good question, because it is so complex.
Mm-hmm.
I I would like to think that, okay, most people would think of Pride as just a space for LGBTQIA queer people, that everybody that falls under that umbrella, to
Mm-hmm.
be themselves and just have a great time without any kind of fear of judgment, or threat of violence or anything like that. And at the core, it is that, but now it's kind of branched out into so many things, um, which is kind of inevitable, right? If you're working in a movement towards equity and equality, it's gonna branch out, and it's no longer just
Mm-hmm.
gonna be yours. Like, it's gonna, the idea is that for it to be, to be a communal thing, a community thing that extends just beyond your community. And so now you have like companies that are getting behind Pride and like pushing advertisements, and you have, you know, um, straight people, straight cisgender people that are coming to Pride and
Mm-hmm.
having fun and taking up just as much space as the queer people that are there, and bringing their kids, and um, there's just so much to it now, and it all adds to the glamour of Pride at the end of the day. It all makes it better. It pushes our fight further, or our progress further, excuse me. But there are some things that
Please
are,
talk about the
yeah,
things.
okay. So
Yes.
the things is, um, slapping a flag, slapping a pride flag on a product, um, or cracking a questionable gay joke, does not it's not doing anything for the movement. It's not doing anything for the betterment of queer people. It's not doing anything for, the amount of Black trans women that are disproportionately murdered. It's not doing anything for the gay youth that are being kicked out and displaced from their homes. It's not doing anything for, like, it's not doing anything for anybody really, except making people feel good who are doing it. Um,
Yeah.
so
Like, oh, I did a thing. I helped.
yeah, it's like, girl,
Yeah.
congratulations, bro. Like, you want a cookie? Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, me and my girl, I got a 17. Rich, like, what?
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't really relate too much to that, and so I try and like steer clear of like wearing the rainbows and all that kind of stuff because for me, it's you kind of become a walking advertisement, and
Mm.
and I don't know that that's what we need to be, you know,
Yeah.
or what I need to be. I can't speak for everybody else, but I don't know that I need to be a walking advertisement. I do know that I need to be a walking advocate and a walking ally, but a walking advertisement, I don't know that I need to be that. I don't know what
Mm.
progress that's making. The other thing is, and I know people are going to see this, and I hope it's taken the right way, but at Pride, for example, I had a lot of people come to me asking me, can we take photos with you? And a lot of people that were coming to me asking me to take photos with me, from my understanding, were not other queer people.
Mm.
They were allies. Um, and while I appreciate it, I had conversations with a lot of my other queer friends who also had the same or similar experiences.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of there was quite a few people that I turned down and said, no, I'm sorry, I do not want to take a picture.
Yeah.
Um, there were some people that even attempted to make me feel bad about it. And, you know, some people where I finally just say, okay, girl, let's take the picture. And it's not because I think I'm too good to take a photo or any of that kind of stuff, but it's because I'm not a spectacle. I'm this
Mm.
for me. I don't know that this Pride Festival is the same thing to you as it is to me. Like, I think you're having a completely different experience as an ally than I'm having as a member of the community. Not to say that my experience is any better or worse than yours. I just think they're very different because
Mm-hmm.
you running around asking all the gay people to take pictures like we're all drag queens, and we're not. I'm not a drag.
No, and even if you were, you need to put some money in somebody's hand while you
Yeah,
ask me
like,
to take pictures.
even
Yeah.
the queens are paid to be here. They're working.
Yes.
I'm saying, and so it's just it becomes exhausting trying to explain because that's a lot to explain to like a 16-year-old girl with her friends that are running up to you, and your gay friends are probably like, take a picture. Oh, y'all look so cute, like take a picture with me. And it's like, thank you. And I made sure to affirm everyone and let everyone know I'm thankful for the fact that you see beauty in me and that you are expressing love to me by asking me to take a photo. However,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to take a photo because I'm not here to take photos. I'm here to dance with my community and with anyone else that wants to dance with me. And I'm here to have a great time. And I'm not here to be a show
Yeah.
or like your entertainment. We are not here to be your entertainment. Um, if you are entertained by something we do or by our presence, then so be it. But we're not here for that purpose. And sometimes I feel like that's what Pride turns into when you have this flood of people coming in that are viewing it as this big party. And it is a party. It is fun, but it's so much more than that. Like
Yeah.
we have like fought. Like literally people have died,
Yes.
for us to be able to have this privilege to party in the park and to have fun and to dance. And so if all I want to do is dance and I don't want to take a picture with you and your mom and the nephew and then what I'm saying,
Mm-hmm.
it gets to just be a thing where it's like, okay, that's fine, we respect your decision. And I was surprised with how much um, opposition and how many frowns I got from trying to communicate that as kindly and empathetically as I could. And I found it to be a common theme when I spoke to other people as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I just would urge people to keep that in mind.
Yeah. And I deeply, deeply appreciate you walking through that because that whole thing of being made a spectacle is so true. So this was I didn't get to make it to Pride this year. Long story short, I got COVID and I was quarantining and finishing up my quarantine, all that bullshit, blah blah blah.
Um,
I'm fine.
Good.
But the last time I went, I was working a table for my job And I remember seeing something that like absolutely broke my heart. So I'm sitting at the table and I see this film person walk by, beautifully dressed, and then people that were at the park on that spectacle shit was like, "Oh, let me take a picture, da da da," but like low key harassing this person, and it just became too much. Now they defended themselves very very well, so they didn't need my help. But I'm sitting and I'm watching this, and I'm like, why should anybody have to be exposed to that kind of shit coming to a safe place, what's supposed to be a safe place to celebrate and be in community? So it just it's extremely frustrating. I'm glad that you brought it up, and it makes me wonder if Pride should start looking at something to educate the audience around what this is and what this isn't. You know, like I think about when I used to go to Afro Punk before. I haven't been in a few years, but I used to go every year for my birthday. And Afropunk had these rules that were like on this huge like banner, and it was just like it was more so about like the vibe, like no racism, no homophobia, no, you know, xenophobia, like no fat phobia. So they had like these different rules and stuff, but it was like, especially when I first started going, they were very intentional around this is the type of community that we're here to build with one another. This type of behavior is tolerated. This type of behavior isn't tolerated because of the way people showed up there. It could very well become a spectacle thing. Now, do I think they have done a good job with that? I have thoughts because it's become extremely commercialized over the years. So it has created a whole different vibe. But I wonder if that's something that Pride, in terms of like the organizations that organize these festivals and stuff, could start thinking about, because it's going to only get increasingly worse, especially as social media gets more a part of everything. Like now it's a part of everything we do. When I first started going, like social media was not that big of a deal, so nobody was recording the entire time. Like you weren't, the culture was not document every step of the day. Now that is what it is, so people are always looking for content.
Yep.
So it's like, oh, this person would be good content. That's literally what they're thinking, but I don't think they realize that's what they're thinking when they approach and say, "Do you want to take a picture?" So it's just it's weird.
It's
Very
very
weird.
it's very weird, and that is an excellent point. If anybody who happens to be on a pride committee for any city, ours or any other city, is watching, that is something to implement. You know, some kind of, I don't know, announcement, some kind of flyer, something. But it is weird, and it makes it. I can only speak for myself, but it made me uncomfortable, because I noticed, even there's some people who didn't even bother to come up to me and ask, just recording me from a distance, like taking photos of me from a distance. You know what I'm saying? And at the end of the day, like, you know me, like I have a professional career, and so,
Yeah.
like, I don't need to have the concern of a picture of me off guard, or I'm not paying attention, or I'm adjusting something, and like, and I noticed that, and I can't run up to everybody and you know what I'm saying, and even then, what, like, I'm gonna come up to you and curse you out and go off on you at the Pride Festival was supposed to be about gay pride, because, like, it's just so much, and you would think that people would just know, but like you said, I think the excitement and stuff takes over, and
Hmm.
it's important to remember that although it's important to remember that you can be an advocate for someone and an ally to someone and still allow them to have their space and still be a guest
Yeah.
in their space.
Yeah, and I think that is the core of what it means to be an advocate and an ally, is to know and understand that that space doesn't necessarily belong to you. You can appreciate the space, you can be welcomed into the space, but the space doesn't belong to you, and these people don't belong to you. Like they have agency of their own. Like there's so much that needs to be taught. And going back to what you were saying earlier about the commercialization of everything, I don't think enough people even understand the historical, reference to the beginning of Pride, like people like Marsha P. Johnson and others who literally gave everything they freaking had to be able to realize a day. that now people can have huge festivals in the park and
Absolutely.
not, be chased by the police and be beat down for just living their life and enjoying themselves. So I just think there's so much education that needs to happen around that. I think about similar things with Juneteenth, and what it takes to, like, okay, good, people are celebrating it, it's become more popular, but at the same time, it's like this creates so many more problems that
We're
I just don't think we're
yeah,
prepared to deal
right.
with.
That's another really good point because today I was thinking about. I think this is the first official year that Juneteenth is recognized as a federal holiday,
Hmm.
and I was thinking to myself, okay, if it's a federal holiday, do I have to go to work? Like,
You should be off.
yeah, and I did a cute little Google search and realized that if you work, a federal job, if you work for the government, it is observed, and there are several private companies that are following, that lead. However,
Hmm.
everywhere across the country is not following and honoring that just yet. And it made me think about what even would the conversation be, with an employer to get them to even understand the I know what it would be, but for them, like, what would the receiving end be? What would your level of understanding be like for me to get you to really understand the significance of Juneteenth and have Fourth of
Hmm.
July, to me and my counterparts, holds absolutely no significance.
None.
Like, to the average person who is not Black and African American, I can only imagine like what that level of understanding would be like.
It's
So
very risky. I can say that. Like, it's extremely risky to put yourself out there. Like, this is the type of conversation that I want to have with my employer around this, especially nowadays. Like, you would think it would be less risky now to have that type of conversation, but I feel like it's more risky because people are very on edge about every fucking thing.
about everything, I completely agree with you. So there is definitely work to do for both of those movements.
Yeah. Yeah. So much. I hope they get it together, but
Girl, me too.
I guess we can keep having the conversations and then, as much as possible, hope that, we influence somebody to start thinking about these things more intentionally for sure. Because it has to happen. But I think it's probably past due for that to happen in the pride space because all the stuff that you've mentioned, like these have been issues for a very long time. So I would hope that, especially now as we start to have really interesting conversations around boundaries and agency in general, like I feel like all the stuff that we went through over the past couple years and seeing certain structures crumble or be very close to crumbling, I think has kind of created a space where you can test the waters a little bit more. Like, it's still risky, but you can test the waters a little bit more. And I feel like there's going to be some reckoning. Like, I hope that there's some reckoning. I feel like there has to be, honestly, because stuff has kind of gone really off the rails a lot recently. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Ugh, we'll see. We'll see. So I wanted to also ask you about Ballroom because I noticed online that you had competed. Maybe is compete even the right word, but you
I guess you would say walked, but honestly, it's a
walked, yes,
yeah.
walked a couple of balls. So just let's just jump into it. Like, one, what categories did you do, and what inspired you to want to try that as an art form?
Yes. So I'm gonna be very careful with my words because our community is, whew, no joke in any sense of the word.
I've
Yeah,
heard. I have not experienced outside of attending a couple of balls. I have not even dared put myself
yeah,
in the spot. But yeah.
it is so intense, but also so beautiful. So
Yeah.
when I do participate, well, I guess I'll just say what I have walked. I have walked. Sorry, I'm having a brain fart. I
It's
walked
okay.
Virgin Performance. I
Okay.
have walked Best Dress. I have walked Runway, and I have walked Face like once.
Mhm.
Um, and so 9 times out of 10, I usually am walking Runway or performance. And I guess what inspired me to get into ballroom, and I'm not in it extensively, I've only participated a handful of times. But what inspired me to get into it was honestly the athleticism of it. And when I say the athleticism of it, I'm speaking about voguing in particular. But even if we look at it
Mm-hmm.
from a broader view, the competitive aspect of it, because when you think about it in your adult life, you don't. If I mean, unless you're a professional athlete, we don't really have many chances to compete. Like it's just not.
No, not for anything that's enjoyable. Like
Yeah,
it's okay, you could compete with somebody at work, but I'm the type of person, I'm like, I don't give a damn. Like,
that's how I am. I'm like I'm, but like
I'm gonna do my shit well, but I'm not fighting with the rest of y'all
yeah,
for nothing. I'm
I'm not.
not doing that.
But the idea and this idea of competing and winning, and
Mm-hmm.
even if you don't win, getting the chance to really like show your art, show your creativity, show what you got. Really, it reminds me of like I grew up running track and cross country. Those are my sports of choice. Like my entire,
So,
and track and cross country are both unique in the aspect of yes, you are competing on a team, but at the end of the day, you're running the race by yourself and you're
mm,
trying to place by yourself. Your placement does give you points to affect the team, but it's not like basketball where like we're a team and we all winning and we all, you know what I'm saying? Like it's not quite like
mm-hmm.
that. Or like football, like no, it's like we're a team, but also like you're going out there to run by yourself. And
Yeah.
that's kind of how ballroom is. Like sometimes it's even more singular than that if you're not a part of a house or a larger affiliate, which I am not.
Okay. I was just gonna
So
ask if you were part of a house yet. Okay.
yes, I am not a part of a house, and so when you're not, it's even more singular and even more like, okay, what you got? Because don't nobody know you, don't nobody here know
Mm,
you, ain't nobody here able to advocate for you, and also it's one of those things where ballroom was created to be a safe haven for
mm-hmm.
marginalized um, Black and Hispanic queer youth. That's literally what it was created for. It was really started and spearheaded by trans women, and then it kind of like broadened to like trans women and gay men, and then it kind of broadened and it kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But that's who it was created to serve, and so I oftentimes feel like, um, you know, it is and kind of should be gate kept for those groups because that's who it's created to serve.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
I'm not gonna disagree with you on that at
yeah,
all.
you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And when you're not down to the nitty gritty, I don't think I even fit into that category specifically because a lot of the people who find so much safety and liberation in ballroom have come from some really tough situations, like some
Mm-hmm.
really tough situations. And I've come from some tough situations. I've come from a tough situation in regards to coming out and things like that. But
Mm-hmm.
there are certain things that I have not experienced. And so when you walk in the room and you kind of feel like, well, I don't, do I fit in? Like, how are they perceiving me? Are they perceiving me based off of the level of privilege that I have in comparison? And I am aware of some of the privileges that I do have. But are they perceiving me based off that? Are they giving me a chance? You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
To be honest with you, 9 times out of 10, they are not. And
Wow. So how do you deal if you walk in and it's like you have the idea that you're here, you want to participate or whatever, and then the majority of the folks are just like,
like,
like how do you deal with that?
you deal with it by number one. I feel like for me personally, I deal with it by number one, remembering who this space was created for.
Yep.
So removing all kind of like personal whatever I got, because personally, it's really not about me. It's personally about the fact that this was created for a specific group. Um, you know what I'm saying? And that is who occupies most of that space now still to this day. And
Hmm.
this is reverent for them. This is personal for them. This is a piece of them. And so
Yeah, I would say holy on a certain level.
yeah, so like
It's a spiritual thing.
spiritual thing. So anybody who comes in that, might not quite fit the mold, it is going to be alarming, and it should quite be alarming. You know, it should be alarming a little bit. So that's the first thing I try and remind myself, is that this personally isn't really about me. And the second thing I try and remember is that, you know, you got to make them know it. If people don't see it for you, people don't know it for you, you got to make them know it. It's
Mm.
like in so many other spaces, you know, in academia, I mean, even, you know, what it's like to be a Black woman working in a corporate space
Oh
and
yeah.
walking in that space that's dominated by white men, and dealing with all types of stares and microaggressive comments and assumptions about your
Mhm.
abilities or lack thereof. And it's like, I don't have time to argue every one of you down about what I can and cannot do. I'm just gonna make you know it. You're gonna know.
Mhm.
You're gonna see it, and you're gonna know it. Um, and if you don't, I'm gonna go where I'm celebrated. And so
That yeah.
there have been times where, you know, I walk into a room or a ballroom uh, function, a Vogue nights or whatever the case may be, and I'm getting some, you know, I'm getting some not so nice stares and some not so nice comments and some not so nice this and that. Um, and I'm just like, all right, well, let me go ahead and let me go ahead and scoot to the side, set my stuff down and wait my turn. Because when it's my turn, you know, then you'll be able to make judgments based off of what I'm able to do.
Mhm.
And I'm thankful to be able to say that in a lot of the spaces, not all of them, but in a lot of the spaces I've been in as it relates to ballroom, I have I have earned my respect. The little bit of taste I have of ballroom in the spaces I've been in, I've earned a little bit of my respect because people are able to see, okay, he's not just this whatever they stereotype me to be based off of my online presence or whatever. Um,
Mhm.
you know, he's talented. He's talented. He's stylish. He has personality. He's kind. He's personable. Um, and so that's something I try and keep in mind. And also trying to let people know I'm not here to dominate this space. Like, I'm not here to take control of this space. I'm here
Yeah.
to participate in the celebration. I'm here to honor what has been created and participate. You know what I'm saying? I think that in anything there are going to be people who, they're going to be bad apples in anything. And
Yeah.
you know, ballroom is like, it's it is not easy. Like, it's not easy. It's people can be it's not for the week. You know what I'm saying? Because you do have times where you might feel great. You might feel so excited. You might have put your best outfit together. You might have been practicing for forever. You might have known all the moves you were going to go out there and do and the walk you were going to go out there and do. And one person on that judges panel um, doesn't like your shoes, or one person on that judges panel just doesn't like you, thinks that you think you're too cute, or whatever the case may be. And I'm not even speaking
Mhm.
about myself. I'm speaking about things I've seen happen where I'm watching
Oh
one person
yeah.
go out here and give it their best shot and do a great job. And because of some kind of politics that are occurring, they're not giving a fair shot. And so it's kind of one of those things where you just got to decide, is this what you want to put up with? Do you want to make them know it?
Mhm.
You don't want to make them know it. That doesn't make you any worse or less than anything, because ballroom is a space for celebration. And I think that sometimes that's forgotten. Um,
Yeah.
it becomes a space for like critique and like tearing down. And it's not supposed to be that. It's supposed to be a space for celebration for those marginalized groups that we talked about earlier.
Mhm.
I don't know that I will ever become like a big, you know, I don't even know the word, like staple in ballroom. I consider myself a uh, jack of many trades, but not necessarily a master of them. And so I'm content with just doing what I do, which is, you know, you see me every now and then I pop up at a ball.
Mhm.
Hey, I might do my little thing. And if I win, I win. And if I don't, I'm gonna look back 20 however many years from now and I'm gonna say, I tried, I did participate, I
Yes.
got a couple trophies, I did tip through. So yeah, that was a long-winded answer, but yeah.
No, but it was a great answer. And I think sometimes, the way you described ballroom is like a microcosm for what we deal with like outside in the world in general, I think is a brilliant observation, because honestly, with most things that we try, like everything is not going to be a home run, like A plus every freaking time. Like you can give it your all. And like you said, you run into, politics that you didn't even know was a thing. Different people's personalities and their attitudes or whatever. But again, to your point earlier, referencing RuPaul, coming into this thing, like, I'm gonna just try it all. I'm gonna try everything. I'm gonna
Yeah.
have all the experiences that I want to have and just go after it like that, because there's always gonna be somebody that's gonna have a problem with that. And a lot of times, when I really look at it, sometimes people what they're really, and this is not to say like the people that aren't paying attention to want to gatekeep and keep the space sacred and keep a lot of like, intrusion out. Like I totally understand that. But I think in some spaces, what the um the pushback is coming from, I had a friend explain it to me like this: like people looking at you and thinking, how do you get to be so free?
Mm,
Like they don't realize that that's what the concern is or what the issue is. But when you really dissect it, it's like, okay, I don't feel like I can be free. I see you being free. And what I really want to ask is, how do you get to be so free? But my ego is like, fuck that person. Like they ain't all that, they ain't this, they ain't that. And it's like there's more to it than that.
that is the most. That is probably one of the most profound things I have heard in a minute. How do you get to be so free? Because that's the perfect way of explaining it.
Hmm.
Because I feel like a lot of it's easy to go to the scapegoat of, oh, they're just jealous, or oh, they're just
Hmm.
hating. And to be honest, I try and stray away from. I'm aware that there are jealous people, there are hateful people. I'm aware that
Oh
there are
yeah.
people who are jealous and hateful of me, but I try and stray away from saying those things because sometimes people say, "Oh, she's just jealous of me." It's like, girl, no, she not just. She just don't.
Hello. It's
Yeah,
like
like
I don't think so.
yeah, she not jealous of you, girl. She just don't like you. That's
Yes.
not you. It's some people that's not jealous of me. They just don't like me, and that's
Hmm.
fine. But they're
Yep.
different things. But what you just explained is so extremely accurate and profound because I think that some people might look at me, other queer people, other Black queer people, unfortunately, sometimes might look at me and say to themselves, "How do you get to be so free?" And like you said, it comes out as judgment and hate and like, you know, let's ostracize you. Let's put you to the side by yourself. When in reality, you don't even know what it took for me to be this free. Yeah.
Hello. All the things like being able to, and I'm gonna jump in real quick and then shut up because I want to hear what the rest of what you have to say. But just looking at it alone from b- straddling like these different worlds, like having a professional career, but then also wanting to express yourself in this way. And it's like, that's not, those things are not easy.
Mm-hmm. Not easy at all. And I work every day to maintain that delicate balance because it is a very
Mm.
delicate balance and it is not easy. And, you know, I know a lot of people look at me and they don't know what it took to be this free. I don't make a habit of, you know, walking around wearing my trauma on my shoulders or diving into every little difficult thing that's ever happened in my life. Not that there's anything wrong with telling your story. There's power and liberation telling your story, but I'm just very, I'm decisive and picky about when and how I do it. And
Mm-mm.
so, because I've refused to be a victim of my circumstances, and so
Listen.
I, you really should just respect me because I'm me, not because I sat down and talked to you about how sad my life was and how this happened and that happened. I could do that, but it says more to me to know that you just respect me off the basis of I look like you and we
Mm-hmm.
have some things in common. And so I definitely agree with you in that regard. And even back to balancing this professional and then also like creator artist who does it's difficult because I don't know a ton of people who are like me in that regard. You know what I'm saying? I
It
know
ain't a lot.
it ain't a lot. Like I know a handful, like even here in the city, like I
Mm-hmm.
a small group of friends now that kind of do similar things, that work these professional jobs and have degrees, and but also do their art and have their online presence. There's a couple people I know that live elsewhere in other places, but I feel like for our generation, it's like either you're the artist full time or you're
Hmm.
professional full time. That's what we're
Yeah.
kind of fed, and that you can't really do both because they overlap, and one could affect the other in a negative. And it's just all these things. And the reality is that while I would love for my art and creativity to fund my life full time, right now it does not. And, you know, I have absolutely no problem utilizing my degree and working in a professional world
Hmm.
from 9 to 5, and then working for myself from 5 to 9 until the 5 to 9 can take over from the 9 to 5. And even if the 5 to 9 did somehow, contribute enough coin to take over from the 9 to 5, I don't know that I will quit my 9 to 5 because I worked damn hard to get that degree. And
Yes.
you know what I'm saying? It is my hope that myself and you and so many other people find ways to merge the two to where they can work beautifully and cohesively. I
Hmm.
all really want at the end of the day.
Yes, and listen, your mouth to God's ears, because that's literally my prayer on a very regular basis, is that God, um expose, like, help me see more ways to bridge the two things together, or the multiple things even together, so that there isn't like this constant push and pull. Because I feel like ultimately it's like I'm trying to live this thing the best way I possibly can, and that requires being able to you know make that delicate balance. So I'm right there with you, and I hope that that happens for you very, very soon. Because honestly, when I look at the makeup of our city, just in general, and I think about the things that make a city worth staying around for, you have to have creative people. And a lot of times people feel like there's not enough room, or the place is too stifling or whatever, so then they leave. Like, that happens so much, and I hope that things can work out in a way to where you feel like, okay, this should actually, the marriage is there, like it works out. And it doesn't constantly feel like that,
Yes.
pulling from different sides.
Thank you so much. I hope the same for myself and you. And, I have a friend who, I don't know if you know, but I'm originally from Ohio. I think I told you that. I grew up in Ohio.
Mhm.
I have a friend who was running for public office there. And, you know, we had a conversation about how so many people criticize their hometowns or where they grew up, like, oh, I got to get out of here. It's dead, and whatever the case may be. But he posed a question to me, basically saying, like, how can you really criticize where you're from and what it lacks without actively trying to contribute to, without actively trying to meet that need,
Yep.
without trying to be the solution. And when you talked about how creative people leave, there's nothing wrong with leaving. I have plans to leave and live elsewhere, and I'm sure you do at some point.
Mhm.
But for the time being, while you're here, like, you have to recognize and acknowledge the fact that a lot of the skills and beauty you possess are a result of your environment, and all
Absolutely.
together. So while you're there, why not try and be a part of that solution? Why not try and meet that need that you want to flee from so badly?
Absolutely. I think that's a really, really great way of looking at it, because if you haven't exhausted those possibilities, if you haven't explored that, it's like, what do you think you're gonna go to another place and do? Like, where you don't have community. The opportunities may be there, but these opportunities really only work well when you're in community and you're able to collaborate with other people, like you mentioned earlier. So yeah, absolutely. There, I want to shift gears a little bit. So there was something that I saw you post online, where you were talking about you being out and having some dude be like extremely disrespectful to you, and this was something that happened recently.
Yeah.
And I don't want to have you recount what happened because I feel like that's not important. But what the first thing that I thought when I read what happened is, man, I wish that Tone would have had an opportunity to tell them people exactly what the fuck he wanted to say. So I brought that up to offer you the space, if you so choose. You're under no obligation to do so. But if you had an opportunity to talk to these people and say whatever it is you want to say, what would you say to them?
I would tell them, um, you got the right one. You got the right one. I, honestly, in both of these scenarios, because I grew up having to defend myself from this kind of attention, I guess. And it's so funny because growing up, I felt like I was targeted and singled out by straight men for things that I really couldn't help, like my voice inflection,
Mm-hmm.
the way that I walk, like femininity, things that I couldn't turn off no matter how hard I tried.
Yep.
So in my adult life, you know as well as I do that you go to work, you code switch a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and you know even the way I dress, like I dress in professional attire. It's not represented anywhere on my social media, but I like to wear a tie. I like to wear my my wingtip dress shoes and my loafers, and I have that aspect to my style too. And so on both of these occasions, it was two occasions, both occasions that happened a week apart. Oh my God, that's so loud. Hold on. On both of these occasions, um, I happened to be wearing my work clothes, so I happened to
Okay.
be professionally dressed, and was still somehow singled out while doing two very normal things. The first was returning um, an item of clothing at the mall, and the second was ordering food. Two things that everyone does,
Yep.
every human does, and dressed as normal, whatever that means, as I could possibly be. And two other black men still found a way to insult me or single me out because of what they perceive to be my sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so what that says to me is that that's why you got to play with all the colors in the first place. That's why you got to be yourself in the first place, because at the end of the day, if somebody wants to be hateful, they're going to find a way. Like
Absolutely.
it doesn't matter. That's why people try and shrink themselves. One thing I meant to mention earlier when we had the pride conversation, and it's no shade. So if anybody's watching, just know it's no shade. But pride is always so interesting because you get to see men who portray themselves, gay men, who portray themselves online as just the most toughest tree chopping down ass man, or you see them out in other spaces and they're so mysterious and vague. And honey, you a girl, you have pride tipping across the grass in a Fashion Nova heel and a mini dress, and there's nothing wrong with it. I love it.
Not at all.
You know what
Not
I'm
at all. That takes me back to going to the 10. So I remember hearing about the 10 when I was like a kid, and then I got old enough to go. And my mom and them would always tell me, they'd be like, listen, you gonna walk up in there and be like, who? We go to church, this and that. And it's like, but mind your business. Mind your business. But you gonna see some things. And yeah, lo and behold, yeah. So I'm just like, wow, look at you being free.
Look at you being free. Like, there were a couple of gay men that I saw at Pride that I know from other spaces that I
Mm-hmm.
think intentionally were trying to avoid me because they might have felt a little embarrassed with
Okay.
me seeing them in that light. And
Because they are used to only dealing with you in a certain world where they're not.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But the thing is that, you know, there's sprinkles of me in every world I exist in. Although I mentioned I do code switch a little bit, it's not that much. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? People are getting the authenticity in some form, no matter where I am. And so
Mhm.
while they're looking at me, trying to do this, I'm living for you. Work. Like I'm loving the dress. I'm loving the heels. I'm loving the
Mhm.
contrast. I'm loving the duality. And that goes back to, these instances with these people when I'm out minding my business and these people are finding ways to be hateful and rude and threatening. And it's like I would always say to them, you know, I feel bad for you. I, I pity you that you don't get to be free. That you are so unfree. You are threatened by my freedom. And
Mm.
there's so many times where like you said, I really wish I could stoop down to your level. I really,
Oh Lord. I'll
I
be wanting to. I'll be like, yes,
listen.
I just want to be real ratchet and trifling right now. I really do.
Like, just because, let me make one thing very clear. My content is to be very, I keep it very PG-13.
Hmm.
However, that is by choice. Okay, I know all the words. My vernacular is very expansive. I know exactly what words to use.
Hmm.
I'm a funny girl. I know what kind of jokes to crack, whether they be rated R or rated G. And so it always is so amusing to me when I'm out and people, and there's always, I hate to say it, but it is always other black men who want to make this homophobic remark and want to snicker this and laugh at this and laugh at that, assuming that I can't meet you where you are, assuming that
Yeah,
I don't have the capacity to return the kind of energy you're giving to me. It's not that I don't have the capacity to, it's that I'm choosing not to. I'm holding myself to
absolutely.
a different standard. And with that, I must end by saying every other black gay man is not going to hold himself to the same standard, and they shouldn't have to. So
Because we all get a choice.
because we all get a choice. So that's why whenever I'm out and I see, one of the girls letting somebody have it, or if I see a video on Twitter of somebody letting somebody have it, I'd be like, as you should, carry
Hmm.
on, do your thing, because some people need to learn. Some people need to learn, and you know, sometimes we have to be the ones to teach them. I choose to teach in a certain way, but my counterparts might choose to really, you know, get with you. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So I never let it get me down too much. I think it was that those instances both happened so close,
Yeah,
and sometimes I do get so caught up in my freedom and living in the world that I've created that it is a bit jarring when I have a situation like that. I'm like, oh,
hmm,
y'all really mad? Are you really
yeah,
mad?
yeah.
So you know,
Those little moments, they really do suck because it's like, okay, here I am enjoying, myself, enjoying my peace, my space, and
mhm.
then this thing comes along to remind you that everybody is not so pleased. They aren't so happy with themselves for whatever reason there may be, but yeah, yeah. At any rate, this has been an amazing, amazing conversation. I'm so glad we got this opportunity to talk with each other. Um, how can people keep up with you? Do you have anything going on you want to promote? Just how do people stay in touch?
Thank you. Well, okay. This is first of all, thank you for allowing me to come on your platform and
Yes.
speak to you. And we have to also we need to grab coffee or something outside of the internet too.
I would love that. I will text you so we can
Okay.
get a date locked in, but I would love to do that. Yeah.
So yes, we will make that happen. And then as far as how people can reach me, I am at Tone Classic, TONECLASSIC across all platforms. I am, I think, most active right now probably on Instagram, although I, am on TikTok and YouTube and have plans to kind of come back to YouTube in a consistent manner with
Mhm.
a lot of like conversational, laid back content. So things that are
Nice.
overproduced and all this stuff, like in a very um, next door kind of manner, because I think that that's just where I'm at right now.
Mhm.
So I do have plans to return to those platforms. But yes, I would just urge everyone to please follow me on Instagram and TikTok, honestly, because that's where I'm posting the most now. That's where I'm sharing a lot of the art that I'm creating and a lot of the skills that I'm learning. And I would just ask that everyone be patient with themselves and patient with me. I think that sometimes as creators, and you probably know as well as I do,
Mhm.
put pressure on ourselves to pump stuff out and pump stuff out, and
Oh,
I gotta be consistent. And consistency is damn hard, especially when you work a job. Like,
it
where
is.
listen, I don't know what everybody else is doing,
Yeah.
but I work a job, a job.
Yes.
So I just ask that everyone please be patient with me and remember that I am an artist and I'm sensitive about my Shit.
That part. Well, Tone, it was again so good talking with you. Yes, we need to get together to get coffee. I already know the place where I want to go, so I will send you the details and we'll lock that date in. But again, great talking with you and best of luck in the future. And you are so right about the being patient with ourselves, because this whole content thing is turning into something that I don't feel like it's supposed to be. Like it's like feeding like an impossible beast that is never not hungry. Like it's always something. So no, pace yourself, do it the way you want to do it. I think that's the way that we're gonna make this work for ourselves.
Deal.
Yeah.
Deal.
Awesome. I will talk with you soon.
Right. Bye, Ebony.
Bye. All right, friends. Thank you so much for tuning in. Tone, thank you for a beautiful conversation. I am excited to see the things that you continue to create and produce. And thank you for being an inspiration to so many people. Really love the conversation that we had on the show. So, as always, guys, I'll go ahead and wrap this one up. Be sure to like and subscribe, rate and review, share the show with a friend, drop me a comment. You can connect with me online at Ebony the Writer on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can also check me out on my website, ebonychappelle.com. Have a great time, y'all, and a positive life. Peace.